All right, Emma and Corina are on a mission to stop bad work stories. Work doesn't need to be a place of drama and suffering. It can be a place of honesty, trust, and good energy. Place for collaboration. God, that's a hard word.
It must. That's a good one. How many coffees have you not had yet?
No, not enough coffee yet.
Yeah, we're on a mission, people. And what we do is we take a bad work story every week and we apply practical everyday solutions that you can use and put them in your toolkit. So take what resonates, let us know how you get on, and let's dive in.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Bad Work Stories Made Good. So this week, wow, what's been happening? Definitely a lot of down our part of the world, the Women's World Cup, FIFA World Cup is underway. Sadly, New Zealand's got kicked out. Anyway, it was truly exciting. Truly exciting while it was happening. And it's amazing to watch so many fantastic women playing football, winning. Oh my God, the level of skill, capability, professionalism. Oh my goodness, Japan. Oh, stunning. Yeah. Anyway, I'm loving it.
It's all good. And if anyone's not following it, England played today, but New Zealand. I want to come back to New Zealand. New Zealand beat one of the favourites, which was Norway. Now Norway has got through, but New Zealand unfortunately lost and played their last game yesterday. But really exciting, the mix of culture and, as you said, all that good stuff. And we're so inspired that stay tuned, because in a couple of weeks, Emma and I are going to do a particular World Cup women's football special.
We are going to have a feature.
We're going to do a feature, and we're going to look at,
exciting.
It's a good story, right? Women's football, centre stage, and yet there are so many bad stories, unfortunately, behind
the scenes.
So we're going to take a little look at some of those and look at how we collectively, can help that whole situation. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
So true.
In the meantime, so true. Today. Right now.
Yeah. What is our bad work story?
Our bad work story this week is kind of a little theme around culture and behaviour. And this week we have a request around this, the kind of the phrase of, I'm just being my authentic self, as a, you know what I'm going to say, right? It's like this, an ultimate excuse or justification for bad behaviour in a team. It's like, no, that was just my authentic self. I need to express myself, right? Have you come across this, Emma, at all?
Absolutely. I've seen this little chestnut before.
Yeah, I mean, and I think...
Yeah, it's that kind of emotional sort of like politics, isn't it? It's like the defensiveness, how to quickly put, it's just my personality. I'm just like this.
Exactly. And it's so... It's what's the word? It's kind of like that, well, I can't change who I am kind of thing, right? Like, it's just me. It's just like, accept it, or suck it up, because, this is just me. And I think, like, to define, like, what is that, like that bad behavior is like how it shows up on team can be something from, like being quite a loud, dominating, kind of always want to share and answer and speak, and then speak on behalf of the team and kind of gobble up all the available space, in a team that can show up like that. How else has it shown up for you, Em, in terms of this kind of thing?
Yeah, I think also with the banter, I think that you can be the kind of person that sort of makes sort of off jokes. They can be sexist or, any racist even, and, just make a bit of a joke about things that really are off, and you're like, oh, I don't know, make you feel a bit uncomfortable. So, those kind of people that you think, and you do sort of put them aside going, actually, they're just very politically incorrect. So beware. But yeah, they tend to sort of bring things or take things a little too far, I would say.
Yeah, and when the counter of that or the comeback on that is, well, I'm just expressing myself.
Yeah. Don't be so sensitive is,
Mm.
often, something that, oh, you guys are so sensitive. It's like,
Yeah, and then the penultimate that I've heard
mm,
is, "Oh, well, it's now unsafe for me to be myself."
oh,
Yeah,
really?
have you heard that one? Yeah, it's like, and I remember
No,
at the
it's
time thinking,
unsafe to be
"Isn't
myself.
that interesting? Isn't that interesting?" So, yeah, and this is, from that
Mm,
continuum of bullying to kind of that naivety
yeah,
of, well, that kind of complete unawareness of, like their personality kind of, you know, doing it at the other end, or as I said, like that deliberate, intentional edge of bullying or some form of
yeah.
like there's something not feeling right there. So that's the
Not right.
situation. That's the
Yeah,
bad work story.
yeah,
And so, how do we make it good?
yeah. Yeah,
Here's what
well, definitely. I mean, this creates ripples in a team, right?
Mm,
This is definitely going to affect your trust and collaboration. So it needs to be acknowledged. I definitely think that creating a safe working environment.
again,
We are against discrimination.
again.
Let's form a culture for you to all work within. And again, we're going to come back to our main parts that we really do. Is that the purpose and culture? What are the boundaries? What do we have as boundaries as
Mm,
a team?
mm,
And how do we set those up and address it when we're crossing over? So when someone's uncomfortable, and you let it go, you're accepting that
mm,
behavior, right? So what we need to do is step in, and be clear when something is not okay. I mean, I can do it. I mean, I find I can do it in that jokey sort of way, like, hang on a minute, that's off,
mm.
I don't think that's okay. Like, nah, that's not okay.
Yeah,
To begin with, to sort of correct in the
yeah,
moment,
that's good. Yeah.
in the flow. Yeah, rather than make it a big dramatic, like, stop, this is not working, to try and sort of correct on fly and in the flow of the team. If it continues, then I definitely would be taking time out with a person to sit down and go, okay,
Mm, mm.
feedback
Yeah,
time.
and I think
How is what you're doing affecting
yeah,
others? Yeah,
mm. And I think in the all of what you've said, and there's also this kind of layer of HR process and human rights that goes through that as
yeah,
well. And in particular industries will be more tuned into that around safeguarding workspace safety, and where are the boundaries and the red lines that are crossed. So it's always really important to be aware of that as well. And I think I would kind of like to rewind a little bit, and for me it would be, what is the purpose of your team and why are we here?
mm,
And
mm,
maybe it's a bit controversial, but it's like, I don't want you to be your friggin' authentic self. Like, F off the authentic self. I don't want you to be, like,
yeah.
if that's your authentic self, I don't want it. Right? I want you to be your
Keep
best,
it keep it for somewhere else.
because be that somewhere else. But on this team, when we
Yeah,
come together, let's be
we
what we
agree.
agreed and are aligned
Mm.
for us, right? So you and I are working on a
Yeah,
podcast
yeah,
together, and we have our purpose and we have aligned on how we behave. Now, occasionally I say a swear word. I've been working not to say those swear words,
very good,
and
being very
being
good.
aware of the ripple of that, right? But I can still
Yeah,
express myself and be who I am, and but do it in a way that I can be responsible for the energy I bring and the message we want to get out there. And I don't want to turn off
totally,
people who would benefit, potentially from the
totally.
stuff that we have to share. But it's this, I think, this cultural
Yeah,
authentic, like, and if I, as I'm saying this, maybe there'll be a whole pile of haters out there on it, but it's kind of like, I want your best self, which includes your authentic self, but the best self
true, true.
showing up for purpose, And I was working with a group not so long ago where,
Yeah,
like, people weren't saying anything, right? And when we were, it was the
mm,
beginning of forming, their purpose and culture. And it's kind of like, well, I don't really say much on this team. And I'm going, well, why are you here? It was a bit of a shocker,
Mm.
right? It's like, well, what do you mean? Why am I here? Well, are you here just
What are you
well,
doing
what are you
here?
doing here? It's like, and I said it lightly and was had
Yeah.
built a little rapport with people, and she looked at me and went, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, surely you're here more than just pulling a seat on, warming a seat." And she was like, "Ah," and it's kind of like this. These people are up to a big thing in the
Wake
world.
up call.
So if you're up to the
Yeah.
big noble purpose in the world, then what are the behaviors that
Mhm.
are going to move you forward together as a team? Not just, well, I don't talk much, so I'm
Exactly.
just going to sit here. Or I overshare and I over dominate and my energy is everywhere, which, gobbles up all the space for the other people. It's like, so,
Yeah, I mean,
mm,
I was gonna say that actually creates that dynamic as well. So maybe that person who doesn't, who's like, I'm just here,
mhm,
has, come to that position because they feel like they have been
mm,
dominated and haven't had an opportunity to speak. And I
yeah,
think that's also the important part, right? Is understand the group, what you're
mm,
creating when you are bringing your overbearing, authentic self to a team. You're shutting other people
mm.
down. Over time, you'll get a shutdown.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And then
So
you
it
wonder why
perpetuates, doesn't
people
it?
sit there and say nothing, right? So I think that the big thing is, to become a we, WE, is not a me, ME, right? So me,
Not a wee,
I
wee,
can I
wee.
can do stuff on
Not a
myself,
me.
right? And I can choose how I
Yeah,
I live my life, how my behaviors are aligned to my values, and all of that is alignment, right? My and that I'm
yeah,
choosing how I show up, like I choose how to show up here, how I choose to show up on a team. So we're making choices every day. And to your point, Em, if people aren't aware of how they're showing up and their impact on
mm.
others, that culture of feedback and, reducing blind spots is super important.
Yeah, well, it's building EQ,
Mm,
isn't it? And I mean, the reality is that, we all, I mean, a lot of people think EQ is something that's, oh, I don't do it very well, so I'm not going to bother. But actually, it's learned. And, the self awareness is the first lesson, the first learning we have in
mm,
EQ, and the self management is the second. So, this is where we are at talking about being self aware and self managing, two key parts of EQ. And growing as a human in a team and in an organization, EQ is so important. It's a huge indicator of your success, your leadership success, your potential, your growth. So not something to be put aside and I don't do that funny weird stuff,
mm,
because to be successful and to be a great team member, um, yeah, and a great leader, you need
mm.
EQ and you need to develop your self awareness and management.
Yeah, and bouncing
Yeah.
on what you've just said, I hear. I'm just thinking of a couple of leaders, talking to around. It's almost the reverse of that, where they're afraid of expressing themselves. Right? It's like I have to be so
Yeah.
contained and so
Yes.
calm that to
Yeah.
be, to
Yeah.
taking the management of my emotions to the other extreme, where kind of their feedback is, well, you don't show any emotion, or you're always so super calm,
Oh, yeah.
and so finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
of, and I remember this great line from a movie somewhere. It was kind of like, just because I'm speaking like this does not mean that I am really freaking pissed off. But and I remember
Oh,
thinking,
God. Oh, I'm scared now.
that's such a great line, right? But like calmly being
Yeah.
able to say, that how you feeling, right? So actually, the
Mhm.
communication of feeling versus being the emotionality that it gets swept away and creates a whole ripple of other issues, that
Yeah.
then needs to be contained, which is another form of drama, right? So yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
Totally. I think, we letting go of ego is another big thing.
mm,
And I mean, I think we've done a whole piece on narcissism, but there is a lot of this ego, chest beating, better than others kind of, behavior that can go on, competitor. that, I've got to be the loudest, proudest, brightest. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work in teams. It doesn't bring collaboration. That word I couldn't say earlier. it doesn't
That's the
it
food,
doesn't
coffee,
create
right?
consistency. Yeah, well, yeah. I have some water instead. But
Yeah.
yeah, so manage your
Managing
ego.
your ego. Yeah, exactly. And there was what was it? I was just thinking of something around the ego, and as Emma just mentioned, if you haven't listened to our one on narcissism, that's not a go back and find that one. That was
Very
very
popular.
popular.
It's very popular.
And ultimately, getting to that point around, I think, like on teams, ideally what we want is, well, what I would love to see more of is the self-facilitation, so that we actually have an
Yeah.
empowering culture, super clear, strong purpose, an empowering culture that has things like speak from the I in it, that has things like, I am
Mm.
responsible for the energy I bring. And, like, what is the energy that you want to bring into the group? What is the
Yeah.
energy that you want
Yeah.
to, serve and fuel your purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that saying you said, show up as your best
Mm,
self.
yeah, totally.
Best self. No, for this day, for
Mm,
this purpose, for this
totally.
team, I'm
Yeah.
showing up as
I
me.
mean, as
Mm.
we sit here, right,
Yeah.
or stand in my case, standing, right. I mean, I've just done a full day.
I'm
You're
sitting.
sitting, right? I've just done a full day, and prior, it was about half an hour before coming on
Yeah.
here. I was going, "Gosh, I feel really tired," So I kind of rocked up here and went, "Oh, Emma, I'm just, like I've had a really long day. I can't be bothered, really. I'm super tired." No, that's not. That might have been my authentic self
I was going
30
to say,
minutes ago, but it was like, that's not what I'm
yeah.
doing showing up on our podcast for. So I went and stood
Mm.
up, like changed my state, made a nice cup of herbal tea
Yeah.
here. I went and jumped on my bouncer, my rebounder, and did 10 minutes of, rebounding, and I
Yeah.
felt fantastic
Totally.
after it. I changed my state. I took responsibility
Same.
to change
Yeah.
my state. And then I hear your voice and I'm going, yes, fantastic. I'm with my mate. We're doing this.
And I had to get out of bed on a really rainy. I was like going, oh, just turn the alarm off. Just forget it. I'm not gonna talk to Corina today. I can't be bothered. It's too hard. Throw the duvet over my head, and yeah, because there's no sunshine. You can tell there's definitely no sunshine behind me.
Well, it's
So
actually improved a little bit since we
can't
started. We can actually see the trees in the distance.
getting a bit
Yeah, yeah.
better. But anyway, the sunshine comes from working together.
Oh, how lovely is that? The sunshine
So,
comes from working together. Yeah, cool, cool. So, yeah, so there's
well,
before we get
yeah.
completely
So
off track.
I
there's
know, I
there's
know.
the like don't accept it. So what's our summary
No,
here is purpose, culture, use deliberate cultural statements that are helpful to bring your purpose alive, and don't accept that stuff around, oh, my authentic self. We want your
step
best
in
stuff.
and address it with people. Address
Yeah,
it.
address
Yeah,
it.
head
Yeah,
on.
and I
Yeah,
think like we always have a theme of kindness, in our kind of interventions and strategies, and to do it in a kind way that kind of is curious and interested to get underneath what is going on, because a lot of times, it's
yeah,
kind of like people just want to belong, and they have a kind of a weird way of, well, that's their way of saying, hey, I want to be part of this team. And being
yeah,
part of this team means that we need to let go of our ego and let go of what we think is the
totally,
only way, and be prepared to make that sacrifice to come into team and to be stronger together.
totally. Turn up as your best
Turn
self.
up as your best self.
Yep.
There we go.
Well,
All
perfect.
right. There you
All
go.
right. Until
Until
next
next
time.
time.
See you
Bye for
later.
now. Thanks for listening.